In my first year of middle school, I was what people call a bucky, a loner. I wasn't totally isolated. I could talk to people if I had to, but I didn't belong to any specific group. I was a semi-loner. If someone spoke to me, I'd respond, but I never reached out myself. Those who've been loners will understand. The truth was, I just wasn't interested in other people. I struggled to remember my classmates' names and never cared for gossip. Who liked whom, who was dating, who. I just listen and think, oh, okay. And that was it. In middle school, everyone suddenly became obsessed with those things, and there just wasn't a place for me in those conversations. I guess I was the only one who stayed a child. I didn't even have a cell phone, which was the big fashion back then. I was the kid who had hopelessly missed the train. There was one girl in our class whom everyone avoided. It wasn't because of her personality. She was actually perfectly fine. It was because of her mother. There were nasty rumors about her, and in the rigid hierarchy of middle school, nobody wanted to ruin their reputation by getting close to her. But like I said, I was a loner and didn't follow the rumors. So when she spoke to me, I just answered like I always did. Over time, I became her only person to talk to. She started coming to my desk every single break. Eventually, the rumors reached my ears too, but I kept being her friend. For her, I was her only friend, and for me, she was mine. I think she felt that, and it comforted her. We'd chat about nonsense, but we never touched on the topic of family. I think we both consciously avoided it. Even as we got closer, the stories about her mother kept drifting my way. If you walk past their house at night, you hear strange screams. They saw her catching stray cats and dragging them inside. She's neck deep in some weird new cult. The girl doesn't have a father because the mother drove him to suicide. It was impossible to tell what was true and what was just malice. But I eventually saw something in that house far more terrifying than any rumor. Shortly after summer break ended, she missed school because of a cold. It was her first time ever being absent. Spending the day without anyone to talk to gave me a strange sense of nostalgia and a slight pang of loneliness. Then a thought hit me. Why don't I bring her the school handouts? She lived in the opposite direction from me, so another classmate was usually responsible for deliveries. The guy who was stuck with the chore was more than happy to hand the job over to me. Wow, you two really are inseparable, he snickered. Are you guys, dating? He was acting stupid, but I think deep down he was just incredibly relieved he didn't have to go there. As I walked toward the address my teacher gave me, my heart was pounding. My decision to go was driven by a faint sense of curiosity. I wanted to see the house. I'm sure it's not as bad as they say, I told myself. But as I got closer, guilt started to gnaw at me. It felt like I was betraying her. Even if she never said it out loud, she clearly didn't want anyone knowing about her family. Especially me. I regretted coming, but I had important documents in my bag. I couldn't just throw them away. I had to go. I trudged along until I finally reached it. It was a small, private house. A bit old, but completely normal, blending right into the street. I felt a bit encouraged, took a breath, and rang the bell. Suddenly, a second-story window slammed open. It was her. Seeing me, she let out a yelp of surprise and disappeared back inside. I heard the sound of footsteps racing down the stairs. I was just glad it wasn't the mother who answered, so I waited. The sound of a fusuma, a sliding paper door, opening and closing. I was puzzled, but a second later the front door opened and she stepped out. Her face was pale. She clearly hadn't recovered yet. What are you doing here? She asked. Here, I brought the handouts for you. Her voice sounded clear and normal. I relaxed and handed over the papers. We exchanged a few words. Get well soon and things like that. And she went back inside. Relieved that everything had gone smoothly, I turned to leave. As I was walking away, I noticed a detail. The curtains in the room to the left of the entrance were open. Is that the room where the door slammed? I thought, and I couldn't help but steal a glance through the window. That was a mistake. In the center of the room, on the tatami mat floor, stood a short woman. She was swaying on her feet, holding something high above her head with both hands. It looked like she was changing a light bulb, but in her hands was a cat. Or maybe a dog? I don't know, but the animal looked dead. What the hell was that? Terror washed over me, and I bolted. In that moment, I thought I heard the sound of curtains being yanked shut behind me. The next day, she came back to school. What I had seen wouldn't leave me alone, but of course I couldn't ask her. She acted completely normal, and I started trying to convince myself that I'd just seen her mother changing a light bulb after all. While I was thinking this, she suddenly said during a break, "Guess what? My mom got sick today too. I think I gave it to her. Are you doing okay?" It was strange. It was the first time she'd ever mentioned her mother, even indirectly. I got a bad feeling. By the fourth period, right before lunch, she turned for the worse and was taken to the nurse's office. It turns out she had forced herself to come to school. You couldn't tell by looking at her, but she had a fever of nearly 100 degrees Fahrenheit and could barely stand. Despite the teacher's protests, she insisted on walking home alone. As I worried about her, a terrifying thought crossed my mind. Did she force herself to come just because she was afraid that if she stayed home, I'd come to her house again? If I thought about it, everything fit. She had specifically mentioned her mother, maybe to distract me, and that sound of the curtains closing? Maybe she had seen me from the second floor and closed them herself? Despite these doubts, we stayed friends. Whoever that woman was, my friend was still her, and I believed she was a good person. If she wanted to hide something, I wouldn't pry. It was better for everyone, but in December, she missed school again. The teacher said it was another cold. By then, everyone saw us as an inseparable pair, so the teacher naturally pushed the handouts onto me. I felt sick to my stomach. I didn't want to go, but I had no choice. I trudged back to that house. I'll just drop them in the mailbox. It'll be easier for her too, I thought. But when I arrived, I saw someone hunched over in front of the door. It was her. "Hey, what's wrong?" I asked, panicked. She looked up with a deathly pale face and gave a weak smile. "I thought you might bring the papers, but why are you sitting out here?" "Anyway, thanks," she said. Something was wrong. She was hiding something. She snatched the papers from my hand and opened the front door. And then she suddenly vomited right onto the handouts. "I'm fine, really," she groaned, hunching over again. The papers were ruined. Her clothes were stained. "You are not fine. Sit here." To hell with manners. I peered into the hallway and called for her mother. "Excuse me, is anyone home?" "Please, enough. Just go away," my friend pleaded with tears in her eyes. But a sudden savior complex flared up in me. I couldn't leave my friend like this. I didn't care who her mother was. We were friends. No one answered. I got angry. What was the mother doing while her daughter was this sick? "I'm coming in." "Don't!" I ignored her and stepped inside. "Hello?" Silence. I needed to clean her up, so I headed down the hallway toward a door that looked like the bathroom, looking for a cloth. And then I heard something. It was coming from that room with the Fusuma doors on the left. So she is in there? In a state of reckless adrenaline, I didn't hesitate. I slid the door open. The woman was there, her mother. She was in the exact same pose as before. She was still holding the corpse of a cat, but that bizarre sight vanished instantly because of what else was in that room. The woman didn't even notice me. My eyes, they were Following the cat in her hands, involuntarily looked up toward the ceiling. On the ceiling there was a face. A giant face. Eyes, a nose, a mouth, nothing else. No eyebrows, no hair. It was pressed flat against the ceiling, like a fleshy mask glued to the surface. My head began to spin. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing, so I didn't scream or run. I just stood there, staring. Is it a model? What is that? Without eyebrows or hair, I couldn't even tell if it was male or female. Its empty eyes were looking straight down. While I was frozen, the mother walked over to me with tiny, shuffling steps. In a completely ordinary voice, she said, "Here," and she held out the dead cat to me. That was the breaking point. Without making a sound, I bolted from the room, threw open the front door, and sprinted out of the house. My friend, still sitting outside, saw my face and understood everything. "It's not what you think. It's a fake. My mom, she's just not herself. It's only my mom who's weird." I ran as her screams followed me down the street. I abandoned her there, sick and weak, but I didn't care anymore. It wasn't a fake. Just before I fled that room, I saw the face on the ceiling blink. She never came back to school after that day. Guilt ate at me, but at the time, fear outweighed everything else. I tried my hardest to forget. I never saw her again. There is no neat ending to this story. Our friendship ended that day, and I know almost nothing more. What was that room? What was the mother doing with those cats? The only rumor I ever confirmed was that her father really was dead. There used to be a kind relative, an uncle who lived nearby and watched over them, but I don't know where he is now. Now, I only wonder one thing. Whatever happened to her?